Hello and welcome to this healing feeling. And today I'm super excited to be meeting someone who embodies the story, one of the stories of hope that I hope that we will be sharing on this podcast. As you may know, I'm someone who was diagnosed with a health condition when I was 17, and it was pretty damning. And my journey of health and discovery has been a lot of sort of searching the internet, looking for people who actually said, yes, I've healed myself, and could demonstrate through their stories that there were opportunities, chances, alternatives, and the rest. And so today I have with me a lovely, delightful, engaging lady called Santa. And would you like to be known as Santa on the podcast?
Yeah.
And she has actually recovered from 4 years of being bedridden with chronic fatigue syndrome, which I think is now almost I don't know what the thing is across the country. So many people have fatigue, and chronic fatigue is such a sentence on your life because it's absolutely overwhelming. But let's get into it. So Santa, tell me a bit about yourself. What's your story?
I think like many people, I didn't quite realize before I got hit with the most horrible, chronic fatigue syndrome and other many different debilitating symptoms that I was leading a normal life. There was nothing unusual. My childhood was pretty normal. Everything seemed to be pretty normal. But then only after I'd gotten sick and started looking into reasons why I got sick in the first place, that's when I realized actually there were many things in my life that definitely contributed to me getting sick. And now the time has come for me to change them. There have been many things in my childhood, in my adult life, that definitely have played a huge role in me getting sick.
That's super interesting to hear because, as you say, a lot of people, we're just living our lives and we're just taking on whatever happens, big trauma, little trauma. And then at some point, the body almost kind of sort of says, no, that you got to stop. You got to just take a breath, and we're gonna make you listen to us. And chronic fatigue seems to be one of those illnesses, or I think it's rather cancer illness, rather disease, that actually does make the individual just kind of go, whoa, hang on, no, I can't function anymore. And so for you, what were the symptoms? So let's say, what was the day like when you first felt really ill? Let's start at that point, the moment of noticing.
Yeah, so I guess a few months prior to me literally becoming bedridden 24/7, I came down with a cold, then another cold, and one particular cold seemed to be like harsher than a normal cold, it just took everything out of me. I felt very tired, and then afterwards, even though I did recover, I just felt the sense of fatigue that I'd never previously felt in my life. So I would be sitting on a sofa, and at that time we were moving house, and I literally had to go in the kitchen and pack a few boxes, and it was just small stuff, nothing major, but I felt so exhausted and tired that I couldn't even stand up from my sofa and go to the kitchen. I was like, something is going on. I'm feeling really exhausted to the point I can't stand up. I can't do simple things. Something is not right. But then that sort of went and then came back. It wasn't anything major at that point. And then after a few months, after we finally moved, just one day, literally suddenly, I went out, I came back home, and I just told my husband, I'm feeling so tired. I don't know what's going on, something must be happening. Then another virus came into my life, and that again lasted for maybe 2 weeks or so. And I never seemed to be able to recover from that. I felt constantly fatigued, and slowly but surely within a few days and weeks, I became fully bedridden, couldn't stand up, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything, couldn't go out. And it was very scary. I didn't know what was happening. And at that point, it was 6 months after I'd just given birth to my third child as well. So, it was just so terrible and so hard for me, for my family, for everybody, and nobody knew what was going on.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I mean, you're doing one of the most stressful things in life. They say divorce, moving house, and death. And you're in the middle of that process, and suddenly your energy is just sapped from you. And then your immune system just stops being your friend. You're being hit by infections and viruses and colds, and which leads to suddenly your life going from one of being an active mummy, I'd imagine, to now being a patient, to being in bed and being barely able to function.
Mm-hmm.
How did that affect you mentally?
Well, at first when it lasted 1 month, I thought, okay, some viruses can last a month, a few months. I can get through it. It's fine. Then it was another month and another month. And then, I didn't understand anymore what exactly was going on. I was trying to find answers. I was going to hospital, many times. I went to the emergency department quite a few times because I felt so horrible, and I had pain like in different parts of my body. Had, I don't know, maybe 20 different symptoms, and nothing could explain. The general doctor couldn't explain it. So became like frequent visitor to the emergency department, to the point where they told me, look, there's nothing wrong with you. All the tests are fine. And now I actually remember that one of the doctors there, he said, well, you've just had a virus. You will recover soon. It seems something like post-viral fatigue, but there's nothing to worry about, and this will just go away. And at that time, I didn't even know what post-viral fatigue meant. I didn't know that it's actually chronic fatigue syndrome is the same thing. I didn't know that it could take you out for months and years. I didn't know how to come out of it. And I was just left without any answers, explanations, but everybody told me, it will go away soon, but it wasn't going away month after month after month, year. And then 1 year turned into 4 years.
Oh my goodness. And I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it? We grow up believing that when we're sick, we should seek help from doctors and the medical profession. And as always, I should mention on this podcast, I'm not medically trained, and you should always, if you've got anything wrong with you, go and see a member of the medical profession. However, there comes a point where sometimes they cannot provide a solution or an answer to the patient. And at that point, really, it's like a game of tennis. The ball's batted back into your court, isn't it? And it's up to you then to sort of say, well, hang on, what's up? What can I do about it? And so, you're in bed, you're not feeling great. What led to the epiphany that it was going to need to be you that sort of stepped into the role of responsibility in your healing journey?
I think that whole process, it was a journey that literally took me a few years, probably at least 2 years, because at first I was just going to every professional, every doctor I could think of. I was doing all the tests under the sun because I needed to figure out. It felt so horrible that I was telling them, it seems like it's something really serious because I feel so horrible. So, please help me. Please help me to find out what exactly is going on. But then nobody was giving me those answers. And then the more then I started reading about what it could be, which is the chronic fatigue syndrome, I became really desperate, and I lost pretty much all my hope because the majority of things that I'd read, as you know, in forums, articles, and everywhere else, they say that, a small majority of people recover. Most don't. You just have to live with it, learn to live with it, with your symptoms, to pace and, and so on. But basically that this is your destiny now. And I just felt like, wow, so this will be me for the rest of my life. Because I was hearing conflicting information from, this person, that person. And after about maybe a year, I heard something about, some bits and pieces about mind-body healing. And I think the first thing I actually heard about was something about neuro-linguistic programming, I think. Mm-hmm. And it sounded very woo-woo to me at that time, and I was like, well, how is that going to heal me?
Yeah.
This is not going to help me at all. I'm not even going to look into it. But with time, months passed by and I became more and more desperate. I did look into this and that, but nothing seriously. And I think because I didn't really try hard enough to understand how exactly these things work, what exactly is going on with my body. And I couldn't even find this information anywhere because I was just blasted with, the forums and everything, the articles that just leave you with no hope, really.
Totally.
And yeah, so this is how it went on. Sorry, I've forgotten your question.
No, and don't worry. And I think what's kind of interesting is, both of us have got this sort of thing, and you're on the other side of it. I'm still in it. And it's a very natural thing to forget the beginning of a question, and especially when you're sick, you beat yourself up about it, and you meet people on the street, and they're not sick, and they forget what they're talking about, so we're fine. But yeah, I mean, so it's that whole thing of actually alternative practices. When you first come into contact or start hearing about them, there is an element of woo-woo to them, and it's nice now that I think we are all becoming a little bit more open-minded to, I mean, even today, another hypnotherapy app appeared on my Facebook wall feed. And if that happened 10 years ago, I'd have been like, what's that? Whereas now, I think, great, actually, here is an affordable way for people to get into doing something that will help with their mind and their programming and the way that they're looking at their health or their fasting or whatever. And so you heard about NLP, and was that the one that kind of first of all sort of attracted your attention, or was there something else that you went towards? How did your healing journey start on that?
I heard about it, and like I said, I didn't believe in it, didn't understand what it was, so I just left it. I printed a whole book about it. Somebody sent me and they said, go through it. It's really good. It was actually, I think, an osteopath. That's another thing that I tried, which, I just tried everything, hoping that it would help me. Yeah. And I think that was the person who recommended it to me. But I just printed off the book. I couldn't actually even read because my brain fog was terrible. I couldn't read. I couldn't write.
Yeah.
I couldn't think most of the time. And I actually had a few months where I couldn't even talk. I could just say like 1 or 2 words a day, and that would be me, because I felt so fatigued. And I know people, if they've never experienced this, they can't really understand what it's like. But it's literally when your body goes into a freeze state, and it's all your muscles, your brain, everything, your whole system. And there's something that is going on. And the more I think I then, when I lie there in my bed and I just thought about my life and, different relationships and everything else, I realized that, a lot of things in my past had led me to the point where I was then. And so this was actually the first thing that I started addressing, which could be, described as a mind-body tool, because it's not anything traditional. And this is something that I talk about a lot, with people that I help, and just generally when I do interviews or anything. But I think the very first thing was me learning what it means to have healthy boundaries and setting them and practicing them. And this was a huge leap, in my journey. That helped me on my, in my recovery. That was massive. And that was the first thing. And then together with that, intertwined, was me looking into different traumas. What were the different big or small, but repeating, consistent traumatic experiences in my life that contributed to all this? And slowly but surely, I sort of started understanding, okay, so it was this chain of events that actually brought me to where I am now, where, like you said, my body just stopped and it said, no more, we can't deal with this anymore, I can't go on like this anymore.
Incredible. And it's almost as though this shutting down of your body was almost kind of saying, you're not going to know that you need to do these things or have the time or the space to be thinking about these things unless I take you out of everything that's keeping you so busy. And that realization that all of the time that had come before you being ill was kind of building up, a sort of tension or whatever in the body, and then that virus or whatever it was just suddenly started to get to you. And when you were looking back at the trauma that had happened in your life, did you feel that the moving of the house had triggered something in your past that then kind of led to these sort of colds and flus, or was that just sort of by the by?
I think the movement of the house was just like a physically exhausting thing, and the virus that I got when I was in the house or before, but these were just literally triggers. But of course, the root causes of what happened, and so I can't say that one event was that thing. It was a combination of small things, and some of them were big things, and together they created the perfect storm, and some of them were not traumatic, perhaps, experiences, but very exhausting. For example, having children, not sleeping for years, but also together with that, it was, let's say, I had insomnia from different traumatic experiences as well.
Gosh.
And it was like, like a lot of things all together, but mainly the different traumas that I've been through in my life that literally, just ended up in me becoming bedridden. And like you said, it's, my body couldn't go on any longer like this, and it just had to stop. And you're right in saying that I wouldn't even look into things like boundaries, brain rewiring, somatic work, which is something that I added later on, looking into my traumas, healing from them, changing different things in my life, like different relationships. Unless that happened, none of this would have changed. So, this is a huge thing that I'm grateful for. But of course, when you're in that spot, and, I wish that I would have learned these things without becoming bedridden, but this is the way it happened.
Yes. Yeah. One of the things you realize when you're really sick is you wouldn't wish your sickness on even people that you really dislike or don't get on with in this world, and not that actually there's many of those these days. But it's one of those situations, isn't it, that you've got this health challenge. You're now looking back at your history and the traumas that you've been through. And as you said, they don't need to be big traumas. They can be little things, but it all builds up. Insomnia, children, stresses of life. And so from being in this bedridden state, how did you start to kind of work self-care into your life? Self-care routines, like thinking about these traumas and dealing with them.
So I think, like I mentioned already, the very first thing was setting boundaries. And this is a very huge part. And I even say that it's about 50% of my recovery, and this is a big part of having self-care and having respect for your body, your mind, your emotions, all kinds of things, because that changes everything. That changes your relationship with your own self, your body, that changes relationship with others around you, and that has a massive impact on your life. But yes, I wasn't, when I was in that state, I wasn't able to actually do much stuff physically, to take care of myself or anything. And my husband literally had to do everything for me. But I think that at the point where I finally started to take mind-body healing seriously, and I learned more about what exactly it meant, how exactly these conditions come about, and slowly but surely, I started to see improvements. It did take me still, let's say, 1 whole year to get to the point where I improved a lot. But when I, for example, started to do brain retraining, within a few months, I saw improvements straight away. But you need to have, consistent, and you need to do consistent small steps. And this is what leads you to having then a big result that everybody's talking about, everybody wants, because I just want to make sure that people don't think that recovery is that one day transformation. That's not how it works, and I think that's how it might seem to others, especially, you know, on different social media. So recovery is it can be a long thing, but also what I say is that I don't believe that recovery is when you are free from symptoms, because everybody in this world has symptoms, even chronic symptoms, you know. Sometimes we have, you know, if you have a headache 5 times a year, is that a chronic symptom? Well, yes, it is, you know. But it's not ruling over your life. And it's the mindset and what you do with things like boundaries and how you approach your traumas and how you heal from them. These are the main things that define recovery for me. And so actually, when I was still bedridden, about I don't know, a year ago, I was still in bed. I actually already stated this to myself and to other people, that I was recovered, because this is how I felt, because I knew at that time that my mind and my mindset and everything were on point, you know. My brain knew exactly what to do, how to get to the place of having lots of improvements. I was making progress, and I knew that, yes, my mindset was in the right place. I can recover, I know how to recover, and this is just a matter of time. Recovery is not so I just want to encourage people, so they don't think that recovery is when I'm able to walk 5 kilometers or whatever. That doesn't have to be the case.
No. Yes, and it's interesting. One thing that's become apparent to me is that healing, I think you could say healing is not the destination. Healing's the journey, not the destination. It's actually part of the life progression. It's one of the sort of the chapters, or a couple of the chapters that you're going to have in your existence, where really you're coming to terms with your body, what it's capable of, and how you can make the best of what it's allowing you to do. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to heal, you know, from a lot of your symptoms, but as you say, there will be times where your body's just going to be triggered, isn't it? And you're going to get a headache, or you're going to feel that fatigue again. But the difference will probably be between being bedridden for a few years and actually deciding you're going to need naps as part of your self-care cycle or your self-care tools. So I love the fact that you're in bed, but you're already saying you're healed, and you're telling people that you're better. What did you kind of decide you were going to do with your life when you were better? Did you have a goal, a vision? Was there something that you thought, hang on, I've got to change things? What am I going to go and do?
Yeah, so in terms of, like I talked about boundaries, I already knew that relationships in my life will look different. Some relationships I might have to let go of. There will be a very different version of me in terms of, because I learned how to feel acutely what my body is telling me, the different signals, different triggers, how it just feels somatically, you know. There are many things like this we don't even notice. So, for example, when I was in bed for many years, just after about 3 years, it only clicked in my head, and I noticed it for the very first time that my breathing was shallow, very, very shallow and fast. And I never noticed it in my whole life, but especially in those 3 years, when, you know, I was feeling highly anxious 24/7. My nervous system was all very sensitive to everything, you know. I had pain from light coming into my eyes, from noise coming into my ears, from even light touch. Everything would cause me pain. And I just remember still this moment where I understood that this is how I'm breathing. And at this point now, I'm just so in touch with my body that I notice, you know, pretty much sometimes, not of course, not always, but pretty much straight away when I have tension in some of my muscles, I have a headache coming up, and I can probably trace it to, okay, it's because of this certain emotion, or because maybe I did too much screen time, you know, and I guess to answer your question about what I also wanted to do is, I knew that my life would look very different. I would know how to respect my own boundaries much better. That will change my relationships with other people, with my surroundings. And also, when just about a year and a half ago, I think, when I was in bed and I was thinking, if this whole thing works, mind body healing, if I actually do heal, I would really love to be able to pass this on other people and teach them how to
Wow.
do exactly the same, And that
Yeah.
was one of the things I was just thinking about. Because I love helping people. I like I just like it, and so I thought, if it ever comes to a point that I recover, me knowing just how horrible it is to feel the way I do, I would really want to help other people to come out of this state, because I know that it is possible, and I will know exactly what to do. And this is thankfully, thank God, this is what happened,
Yeah.
and I'm just so grateful for this, that now this experience is allowing me to pass on these tools and to know exactly how to help people in this situation.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. So even when, you're going through all of this physical trauma of being ill, you're now thinking, actually, can I give back? Can I learn from this experience? If there is a glimmer of hope that I can heal myself, will I be able to? Can I pass this on? Can I help others? And that is just so incredibly selfless, so incredibly kind. Because in a world where, yes, we have the joys of technology, where I could find you and, we could organize this interview, there are support groups, and some of them are great, but there are also support groups where, unfortunately, there is a lot of negativity, because part of being sick and ill is that it does affect your mood. It does affect your ability to be positive and kind of engage. And so a lot of people join groups or forums and then feel even worse, because they're seeing these people who are further on in their journeys and no better than they are. So actually, the power of someone like yourself is massive, because actually now it's like a beacon lighting up that people can say, hang on, look what she's doing. How is she doing it? That's the life she's living. Could that be me? Yes, it could. Why might it not be? I mean, the only thing that holds us back in life on the whole is fear, and fear of what might come from a situation that changes. And I will be at some point dealing in an episode about how the fear of being well, because that can be scary, especially if it's felt very safe to be sick. But so you'd been ill, you'd had these sort of epiphanies, you decided you wanted to help others. So is that what you're doing now? Are you running courses, working one-on-one with people? How does your life look?
So I mean, also, when I was bedridden and I was looking at the many different social media accounts and everything, and many of them were really unhelpful, where the people would be spreading the message of, there is no hope, you will never recover, this is your life now, and just understandably being angry at the doctors, at others who would tell them, well, you just need to do this X, Y, and Z and you will recover. Because I've been in that place, and I still receive messages like this where, people tell me that, well, you definitely didn't have CFS because you can't recover from this.
Oh.
And that feels painful to me, because I have been there. I was at a point where I thought I was literally dying, because not just because of the different symptoms, but also when you are deprived of everything, I didn't have, I couldn't absorb any nutrients, because all my bodily systems just weren't working well. I didn't receive any vitamin D, so no sunlight, and because I wasn't absorbing anything that I take in supplement form, no sunlight for 4 years. What would this do to a person, physically, mentally, emotionally?
Whoa, yes.
All these things. And so literally, I did feel at the end stages like I feel like I'm dying. And I know that sadly there are people who even passed away from this, because this is not a joke. These are serious conditions. But I believe and I know that if doctors and patients were educated from the get-go, the time that you're born, maybe in school, in university, about all these things, mind, body, tools, how chronic conditions come about traumas, then there wouldn't be millions of people now in bed, So I completely understand for people who are still in bed and they've heard this message all their lives, about the traditional medicine and all of that, and they see that, well, most people do not recover. Of course, they start to lose hope. And that was me as well. That's why I'm, again, repeating myself and saying that, I've been in your shoes and I know exactly how it feels like.
Yes.
But that's why even more so, I want to provide that message of hope. And so, to get back to the topic, when I was talking about looking at different accounts, some of them were very unhelpful, but I was really drawn to them, because I agreed with them. Like, I was very angry. I didn't like that, doctors didn't understand me. They couldn't provide any treatment. But then when everything changed and I realized that there are some things that I can do to actually help myself, that healing, that there are other people who have healed, that this is my responsibility, then everything shifted, and there was no longer this anger that, doctors are responsible for me, because I'm responsible for my own health in this instance. So, and that is also a very empowering thing to know. And there were many accounts that I followed of people who recovered, and they were incredibly helpful.
Yes.
And this was one of the thoughts that crossed my mind, I felt really uncomfortable being on camera, doing any of that social media stuff, because I'm actually an introvert. I don't like really being the center of attention, anything like this, which some people do like and they enjoy it. So it took me about a year to even get the courage to make a video and to create my Instagram channel and everything.
Yeah.
Just felt within me that, I have to spread this message.
Totally.
I know that there will be people who will connect with the way I explain things, because we're all different. I have many things to add to this community, I feel. I just want them to be encouraged by what I'm spreading.
Absolutely.
And so I started to talk to people. First I started to upload many videos, try to upload as many as possible while balancing having 3 children and, leading my life and trying at that point still to come out of the different symptoms that I was having. I was still spending probably most of my time in bed when I started my account, which was around a year ago. I was talking to people. I was doing the different free consultations whenever I had the time. Then it turned into, now I'm going to do paid consultations.
Brilliant.
Because I think this is, again, a very brilliant business idea as well.
Yes.
You're helping people. And I have used, individual coaches, group coaches. I have gone through many different courses, and these are the many different things that helped me. So this is a very valuable thing, I feel, to do.
Totally.
In the future, it is my hope to definitely create some sort of program or course, because again, I feel that all of them are very different. They cover things differently. They're built for different audiences. And, there is a way that I feel things need to be done, and I want to show it to people, because this is exactly what I feel. And I have seen in other people with whom I work as one-on-one clients, for example, in coaching, it helps them to recover as well. Some things that are missing, for example, from the mind-body community is there's not a huge emphasis on boundaries, which again, I am personally saying that it should be, and it will be, like a 50% of
priority.
Priority and recovery journey. People need to really concentrate on that, because it's not just about using the tools, because it's things like somatics and brain retraining and all of that is great and amazing. But I feel these are more tools that would be much more helpful, and they would help you to recover fully and have a long lasting impact if you actually deal with the deeper root causes as well of how you interact with your own body,
Yeah.
how you interact with people around you, with your environment, and all these different things. So yes, now I do one-on-one coaching, and I have actually, by the time this interview probably comes out, my workbook, I have created a workbook
Oh, super.
on unveiling fixed beliefs that are unhelpful, because this was yet another huge part of my recovery and everybody that I work with as well. And again, I feel there's probably not enough emphasis on this particular topic in the community, because again, if you use the tools, but in your subconscious mind, you haven't really worked on eliminating unhelpful fixed beliefs about what recovery looks like. Why would you recover? What does it mean to recover? How do these tools work? And all kinds of things. The tools will not be effective.
No.
And this is what I believe, and this is what I have seen. And because also, as demand grows, as your audience grows, I want to provide different options for people who, for example, can't afford the one-on-one coaching. They can have this workbook as a very solid starting point to them. So this is what I do now.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I think the thing about the world we live in now is that due to the joy of the internet, I think I've pressed that 4 times during this interview, there is every opportunity for people to find the right person to work with, the right person who's experienced what they have. And I was listening to a podcast today about psychiatry, and they were saying about how it's important. It's not the type of sort of mind work you do. It's about actually having a rapport with the person you're working with, whether it's being a mentor, a coach, a doctor, a practitioner, or whatever. And so the people who find you and who resonate with your experience are going to be the best people to actually, they have the best chance of healing, because you'll have been through the same things and you'll be able to help them navigate the healing journey with what you've learned. And boundaries is something which I must say hasn't come up at all, and I think is huge, because as you say, there's your boundaries of your body, there's the environment, your boundary with others. If you've got deep set beliefs about, or insecurities or low self-worth, and someone comes along and treats you badly, if you haven't sorted those things out, you're decimated. And I think especially with women who can be quite, well, not everyone, but women particularly, can be quite empathic, and cat bomber in the background, photo bomber, not literal bomber, can be really sort of taking on other people's energy. And so you have to protect yourself, don't you? And look after you, because if you don't love yourself, if you don't work on yourself, you can't love the people that you love as much as you possibly can, because you're still sorting out your kind of stuff. And this workbook sounds fantastic, and I think this is the interview that I will have right at the beginning of the podcast, because it really gives such a vision of what can be achieved if people step up, take patient responsibility, say, okay, I'm going to need to do some work on myself. I need to find out about some self-care tools or techniques, but I'm also going to need to think about my mind as well as my body and spirit as well, if that's something that resonates with you. And in your life now, do you have sort of any sort of daily habits that you find super useful that kind of keep you on it?
Yeah. I am a believer, so I have a relationship with God. So I do pray, I read the Bible. In terms of specifically mind body tools, in this last year that I was making more and more progress, I was doing a lot of brain retraining, especially in the beginning. This is very important to be very consistent with it, to the point that it becomes a habit where you don't need to think about it anymore. It just comes to you automatically like this whenever you experience a symptom, and you just do the brain training, and your body and your mind will start to feel safer and safer with time. And the less symptoms are had, the more improvements are made. these sort of mind body tools really went away almost, completely. Now I would maybe sometimes use them if I if I feel I've truly really pushed myself a bit too much, not in terms of, so I'm not talking about, when you push yourself, when you have chronic fatigue syndrome and then sadly you can't do anything. I'm just talking generally in life. And this is where, again, those boundaries come in, because now I feel much more acutely where, I've had too much screen time. I've had too much socialization, whatever it might be. I just need to be alone right now. And so I'm able to do these things. And one of the things is, for example, spending time by myself and prioritizing this, which I wasn't able to do. And I didn't feel it was important. And I didn't, because I wasn't in touch with my body and my boundaries, I didn't understand that I needed it, that I craved it, that this is a normal thing, that everybody needs some space and time by themselves where they can recover and restore. So this is one thing that I do. And again, if you're in a circumstance where, for example, you have children or you have a demanding job or whatever it is, where you feel like, okay, well, you tell me to do this, but I'm not able to do it. So I'm not talking about you having to spend 5 hours by yourself every day, because every small thing will literally help you. So even if you're able for 10 minutes to just tune out of the whole world, and this is what I tell my clients as well when I work with them one-on-one. So in the midst of your work day, for example, you're working, just take those 10 minutes where you're not listening to any meditation. Please don't do it at that time. You're obviously not scrolling on the internet. You're not calling your friend. You're literally just going to rest, to switch off your mind, to sorry about this, to try not to have any stimulation, because this is the time when your brain will restore itself. It's not just the sleep time that we need, it's also in the day, especially in the modern day where information is blasted at us like this. You have to be able to be disciplined and to set limits. And again, I'm talking not from a point of view of I'm perfect and I do everything perfectly, because I fail every day, but because I fail, I'm asking you and encouraging you, please don't fail. I'm not able to set healthy boundaries sometimes. Sometimes I don't set limits. Sometimes I go overboard. But the beauty of this healing work as well is that, now my nervous system is able to deal with these things. So, for example, today I didn't sleep well. And then I feel maybe I'm coming down with a cold or whatever, but I'm still able to function. And this is amazing. This is something that never been done when I had CFS. Even if you have it mild, let's say, or moderate, it is just something like something that you could just dream about. At this point is it's the ability of your nervous system to simply react to stresses when the stress is big, and you knowing how to retract, what tools to use if you need, brain retraining, somatic work. So, even when we talk about somatic work, it can sound a bit intimidating and scary as well. When I was in bed, for example, that, this is, you need to work with your body, you need to move your body. And it sounds like, okay, well, this is impossible for me to do. So how am I able to do it? But even things like giving yourself a hug, doing very light stretching in bed where you literally put your arms out, just doing just a bit of shaking like this. It doesn't have to be, wild dancing if you're not able to do it. Self-massage, massaging your hands, for example. All this will help you to get into your body, to be in the present moment, to be able to also release pent-up emotions. All of this will then make you feel better, will help you to come out of a freeze response, or sometimes if you're in fight or flight as well. And so, there are different things you would do in different situations depending on what state your nervous system is in. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so just to kind of sort of focus in on some of those things you said, that idea of actually, even if it's, a couple of minutes, or maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe you're lucky you get 20, taking yourself out of life and kind of sitting back and saying, how does my body feel? What's aching? Do I need water? Do I need a walk? Whatever. Do I need something? Kind of taking a moment not to be scrolling, not to have information overload, turning off your phone, doing something. I mean, I said to someone today about having a cup of tea, because even the process of boiling the kettle, that's actually a few moments where you can be standing on one leg if you want to. Michael Mosley recommended that, not me. But that's really, really important, because, again, you're setting this boundary. You're saying, hang on, I know I'm a mummy. I know I've got this to do. I've got to do. I need to make this time for myself. And then within that, you're actually learning the skill of like setting these limits, aren't you? About the boundaries, the time, listening to your body. And then once you've got this kind of awareness of how you feel, then you can bring in the somatic things to actually help get your body back into the parasympathetic system setup, because that's one of the largest challenges, would you say, is that actually if you're sick, you're not feeling great, your body's trying to fight for your survival, and so you're kind of stuck in this loop of fight and flight. And really, if we're going to get ourselves back on the other side into the let's get on with our lives, we need to be calm, we need to be breathing, we need to be chilled, we need to be glasses half empty, half full, not half empty, sort of being positive and having gratitude, you mentioned as well, for even when symptoms pop up, you haven't slept that well, you think you've got a cold coming, but hey, I'm not where I was a couple of years ago, and I know I can get through this because I've got this toolbox of things at my fingertips. That's so inspiring. So inspiring. Thank you. Gosh.
Thank you.
Well, you've given so much today, Santa. Really, you have. And typical. I'd say to everyone, turn off technology. And of course, there's an alarm that came up before I was doing meditating. That's the person I am. I have an alarm to remind me to meditate.
That's good. That's good.
Although the technology recently changed, and my alarm is now a little bit anxious-inducing because it's like a siren. I have to sort that one out. No emergencies here. Wow. Well, thank you so much for all you've given today. Where can people find you? Is it Instagram? The second, is that the best place to check you out?
Yeah, Instagram at santa.wellness. This is my page. I do have other pages, but this is, my main one is Instagram. This is where they can find me.
Fabulous. Great. Well, I'll close the recording for now, but fingers crossed we can catch up in a couple of months or years and see where you are then, because I think it's all going to be on an upward trajectory. Take care, Santa, and thank you for today.